on this Monday night.
It sounded to me like maybe these could have been rogue killers. Who knows?
Saudi Arabia in damage control. The kingdom reportedly prepares to admit it did kill Jamal Khashoggi, but didn't mean to. Does that explanation make any sense? Does that even matter to the United States?
If there's evidence that it's going to save a kid's life, then absolutely.
Mounting calls to get seatbelts on school buses after a Fifth Estate investigation uncovered they could save lives. What is the government waiting for?
And as of midnight tomorrow, pot will be legal.
I find it highly unlikely that anybody's going to be doing any kind of a big crackdown on day one.
Police say they're ready, but CBC News has learned crime labs are preparing for an onslaught of drug tests.
That's going to be completely unmanageable for the RCMP labs.
What it means for catching and prosecuting stone drivers. This is The National.
Our colleagues at the Fifth Estate discovered a 2010 Transport Canada study that was never made public. It found that installing seatbelts on school buses could help save lives. And as our Katie Simpson reports, people want to know why that report was never shared and what the government will do about it.
Give me 5.
In the hectic rush of the morning drop-off, parents in Toronto pause for what is now a top-of-mind concern.
Obviously, seatbelts make sense in every other scenario in cars and vehicles, so I'm surprised that there isn't any sort of seatbelts in buses.
You don't want to be using the term good enough when it comes to a child dying.
The Fifth Estate uncovered a 2010 study by Transport Canada that found padded seats on school buses did not prevent injuries in side impact or rollover crashes.
Bringing in the seatbelts is a good first step.
The study's lead researcher also found seatbelts could help prevent ejections, despite Transport Canada's position that bus seatbelts do more harm than good, a key finding of an earlier study. These concerns made it to the House of Commons today.
Order. This problem needs to be fixed now. What are the Liberals doing to ensure safety on our school buses?
I have instructed my department to take an in-depth look at the question of seatbelts in buses, a fresh look based on all of the evidence that has been collected since all the way back to 1984, and I look forward to their findings.
The Transport Minister says his department will look at safety studies from within Canada and around the world.
If we make the decision, for example, that we're going to put additional safety measures in place with respect to school buses, we'll try to do it as quickly as possible, taking into account the fact that in some cases retrofitting or building them into new buses does take a little bit of time.
Whatever decision is made, this expert wants to ensure the government is using the most up-to-date research.
Perhaps we need to revisit some of those studies with more modern techniques to make sure that we're actually making recommendations that will keep children safe on school buses.
The government is vowing to get to work right away on its review, but offered no timeline. If a change is going to be made, it could be done relatively quickly. Because this is a safety issue, it doesn't require legislation. Katie Simpson, CBC News, Ottawa.
So what would happen if Transport Canada did decide to order mandatory seatbelts on school buses? Well, it would actually be up to the provinces to enforce the law. Buses would either have to be retrofitted to provide approved seatbelts, which could cost around $10,000 per bus, or those seatbelts would be installed on new buses as they're built.
Now to the disappearance of journalist Jamal Khashoggi. It's like a plotline straight out of a dark novel, a suggestion that maybe it was rogue elements taking matters into their own diabolical hands. Certainly that appears to be the story Saudi Arabia seems set to spin, and as Ellen Morrow tells us, at least one key ally appears to be on board.
Intentionally or not, President Trump foreshadowed how Saudi Arabia reportedly plans on explaining the apparent death of Jamal Khashoggi.
It sounded to me like maybe these could have been rogue killers. Who knows?
According to American media outlets, the Saudis will admit Khashoggi was killed, but will say he died in an interrogation gone wrong, and that Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman ordered his questioning but not his killing, a murder likely to be blamed on an intelligence officer going against official orders. President Trump may have heard the same narrative from King Salman during a phone call this morning.
I can only tell you that his denial to me was just one very, relatively fast phone call, probably lasted 20 minutes. His denial to me could not have been stronger, that he had no knowledge.
But still no explanation for why that team of Saudi officials arrived, reportedly carrying a bone saw. One of many reasons others are more skeptical.
Let's remember, this is the same King Salman who told me right after 9/11 that the 9/11 attacks were an Israeli plot. And he said that firmly. Did I believe that? Of course not.
President Trump is doing a delicate dance. Though he previously threatened tough action, he's also eager not to undermine the Saudi relationship and arms deals worth billions. Asked whether he canceled them in the wake of Khashoggi's disappearance, the president was non-committal.
Would you cut that off?
Well, I tell you what I don't want to do. Boeing, Lockheed, Raytheon, all these, I don't want to hurt jobs.
Meanwhile, Turkish and Saudi investigators went inside the consulate today, a seemingly futile effort nearly 2 weeks after Khashoggi disappeared, especially since a cleaning crew was seen going in a few hours earlier. Ellen Morrow, CBC News, Washington.
So how might the United States punish the Saudis, and how might the Saudis then retaliate? Well, the truth is their interests are so intertwined, it may not get that far. The U.S. may not need Saudi crude like it used to, but the economic and security relationship remains massively important to both countries. Saudi regional power is basically built on high-tech U.S. weapons, and without those, the Saudis would be hard-pressed to even defend themselves, let alone play the role of regional policemen, protecting American interests and counterbalancing rival powers like Iran. It's true, the Saudis have only spent about $14 billion of Trump's $110 billion arms deal so far, but don't expect the U.S. to let this one go. The State Department said it could be worth as much as $350 billion over 10 years. It said that back when the deal was signed. All things considered, neither side has much leverage over the other. And frankly, the United States isn't the only country which benefits from Saudi Arabia's very deep pockets. Canada's former Conservative government brokered a highly lucrative and, yes, controversial deal to sell light armored vehicles to the kingdom, $15 billion worth of them. So while Canada has called for a full investigation into the Khashoggi affair, the Trudeau government is not backing away from that deal.
It's important for countries, when they sign on to agreements, to stay in those agreements. So we are sticking by agreements that were made before we entered into government. Having said that, we believe in a tough arms export regime, and that is the approach we're taking going forward.
Canada's former ambassador to the kingdom isn't convinced that pulling out of an arms deal would have the desired effect.
I heard a lot of talk this weekend that, this is the time to pull the plug on the LAV deal, for example. I'm not sure where that gets us. Okay, we lose a few thousand Canadian jobs. We undercut our reputation as a reliable supplier. But what does that do in terms of shaping or curbing Saudi policy? Nothing. And all of the countries are dealing with the same dilemma. All this talk about sanctions. You're not going to be able to isolate Saudi Arabia. They're just too important a country.
Dennis Horak knows just how tricky it can be to deal with the Saudis. He was expelled from the country in August after the Canadian government tweeted its concerns over human rights.
We are now less than 2 days away from legal recreational cannabis, and today Canada's police chiefs spoke out about what to expect. The main thrust of their message: everybody should just chill.
I find it highly unlikely that anybody's going to be doing any kind of a big crackdown on day one.
The chiefs emphasize this will be a gradual journey as users wean themselves off illegal suppliers and adapt to the new regime.
The laws will come into effect, but till everybody gets used to it and the new stores get their licenses. Some provinces have more up and running right away, others don't. But I think they're taking a pretty common sense, pragmatic and measured approach to get the new stores online.
And they offer a little perspective.
Please keep in mind that the enforcement of the new cannabis laws is not the only public safety issue for police agencies in Canada.
One priority, though, is to keep out organized crime. Once the laws are fully enforced, you will face stiff penalties for possessing cannabis you know to be illicit.
We're also counting on clear packaging and labeling that details penalties for illegal production and trafficking of cannabis.
And police say they are ready to deal with drivers on pot. While there may be only one roadside detection device that has been approved, that is just one enforcement tool. 13,000 officers across the country are now trained in field sobriety testing. That will increase to 20,000 in the next few years. In addition, 833 officers have received further specialized training as drug recognition experts. The goal is to train 500 more. But when it comes to prosecuting drivers who are dangerously stoned, there could be a potential roadblock in the system. CBC News has learned that the RCMP has some trepidations about the part it plays in this. And Catherine Cullen has the exclusive details tonight.
As legalization kicks in, this could become a more common sight, and that could have some big consequences. In a document obtained by CBC News through access to information, the RCMP predicts its labs will go from processing about 550 samples a year of blood or urine from potentially impaired drivers to around 6,400 a few years later. That's nearly a 12-fold increase.
The first thing that goes through my head is that that's going to be completely unmanageable for the RCMP labs.
The RCMP's labs do testing for police forces across the country, excluding Ontario and Quebec. Police can ask for a blood or urine sample if a driver fails an evaluation by specially trained police officers. Already, it takes 130 days to process a sample. This raises concerns about even greater delays in an already bogged down court system.
Not only do people have to wait longer to see where their cases are going to go, wait longer to see if charges are approved, wait longer to have those cases progress through the courts, but also victims of impaired driving cases have to wait longer for justice.
And where does that 12-fold number come from? Well, the RCMP wouldn't speak to us on camera, but in emails, the force pointed to what happened in the United Kingdom when that country decided to ramp up the number of officers trained to detect drug driving. Canada's force says the increase will happen gradually, but there's debate about the entire prediction.
The head of Canada's Police Chiefs Association says it's possible to turn to private labs if there is a backlog, but he's skeptical of how big the problem will really be.
I think we will see a bit of an increase, but I don't think there's going to be a dramatic spike.
But a representative from Mothers Against Drunk Driving backs the RCMP's estimate.
Their estimates seem reasonable to me, given the uncertainties. We have a significant number of drug-impaired drivers on the road and relatively few charges and convictions at the current time.
The RCMP says it is hiring new lab staff, but the process takes time, and they won't have everyone hired and fully trained for another couple of years. Catherine Cullen, CBC News, Ottawa.
Now, cities across the country are taking cannabis regulations into their own hands. For smokers in Halifax, that now means they won't be able to light up in public spaces altogether. Instead, they will have to use designated smoking areas. And that's not just for pot, it also targets cigarettes. The sweeping ban, which comes into effect today, is the most restrictive in the country. But as Brett Ruskin explains, the rollout hasn't exactly been smooth.
They should have thought about this a lot more than what they have.
Ruth Ann Murphy knew the smoking ban was coming, but like most Halifax smokers, had hoped to have at least a few spots to still light up.
Everybody's carrying on as usual. That's all we can do.
So people are not following the law?
No, nobody's following the law. Everybody I know that smokes is still going outside and smoking.
The ban covers all smoking on all municipal property. That means no cigarettes, vaping, or cannabis on any sidewalk. But here's the problem. The city promised designated smoking areas. When today's ban came down, each area was far from the downtown core. And even smokers at those sites, like Bob McLean, weren't happy.
You know, it just peeves you off. They kicked us out of inside, and now we're kicked out of outside.
Nova Scotia has the second highest rate of cigarette use in Canada, and the province leads the country in cannabis consumption as well, with 23% of Nova Scotians saying they've used it in the last 3 months. With all those smokers, city staff say more designated smoking areas are coming. Meanwhile, officials are asking non-smoking residents to please not call police on smokers walking down the street. They plan to ticket only the worst offenders.
If people continue to want to flaunt the law, and after many warnings, then we may have to impose the fine.
And if those fines are imposed, they would range between $25 and $2,000. As for the downtown smokers with few places to light up, city officials say they plan to open 24 new spaces across the city by the end of the week. Brett Ruskin, CBC News, Halifax.
Okay, so that's Halifax, but the rules vary in different provinces and cities. For example, in Montreal, you'll be able to smoke pot wherever cigarettes are allowed, and that includes most parks. Broadly speaking, Ontario has the same rules, but individual cities can put more restrictions in place. Take Ottawa. It's banned cannabis from city parks, hospital grounds, and within close proximity to schools. Those same rules will apply in BC, where consuming cannabis won't be allowed in vehicles and playgrounds. Calgary is planning to go even further. Recreational pot will be prohibited in any of the city's public spaces. And later on the National, the CBC's Tom Murphy will take you inside the race to create cannabis brands. As pot goes legit, industry leaders face a big question. How will they get you to buy it, especially if you've never really tried it?
Sometimes people will say, I can buy pot legally, and they almost giggle when they say it.
We really need to do our best from a branding perspective, from an advertising, to help make this something that non-consumers can understand, so they stop giggling about it and think about it in the same way as they do beverage alcohol.
Tom followed 2 companies for months, and you'll see what he found in about 15 minutes.
So here's some other stories we're following tonight, including the death of a 6-year-old girl. She was hit by a train in Calgary. Police say she was crossing the tracks at around 8 o'clock this morning when the bells sounded for an approaching train. And that's when police say she panicked and tried to turn around. The C-train driver hit the brakes, but it was too late. The girl died on the way to hospital.
We did locate her mom and dad, who were living close by and working close by, and we took them to the hospital as well. It is a difficult day. We all have children, and I can't even imagine what they're feeling right now.
So just hours later, another death on the Calgary tracks. A pedestrian was hit and killed at a different station in the city's southeast. He was pronounced dead at the scene.
The people united will never be defeated.
And those are protesters rallying across Ontario today, angry at the government's plan to scrap the minimum wage increase. Now, Premier Doug Ford is planning to repeal the law which was passed by the previous Liberal government. That would have seen the minimum wage increase to $15 an hour from $14 an hour.
And still ahead tonight on The National, trying to sell you on cannabis. We'll have that in-depth look for you at 2 companies developing very different approaches to get you to buy.
Plus, after days of speculation, royal watchers get confirmation. Harry and Meghan are expecting their first baby, and bets are already in on the name. Of course they are.
I spent the whole weekend thinking about it. And one Canadian's fight to allow gay men to donate blood.
There was no evidence to support the policy in the first place, but there was also no evidence to support the lowering of the policy. So this policy hasn't been based in science either way.
The border between Northern Ireland and the Republic of Ireland is invisible, but people here know exactly where it is. Essentially, it's where I'm standing right now, and if you look over here, it actually runs along the middle of that river. People remember what the border used to look like. There used to be a customs office just off the road here to my right, and an army checkpoint just up the highway. The worry with Brexit is that along this point, which is the only point where the United Kingdom sits right next to an EU country, that when Brexit happens, there has to be a physical hard border here. That would mean a controlled border that has a customs office and a checkpoint again. There hasn't been a physical border here since the so-called Troubles, and the concern is that it might fly in the face of a peace agreement that was signed here 20 years ago to end the violence and also to open up these borders. As you can see, there is opposition to the idea of a physical border, and one of the major concerns here is economic. Anyone with a job or a business or land that straddles the border says the only option is an open border.
There's a lot of people would not be happy with borders going back up. This place, this area would have been very much like a war zone 30 years ago, and we don't want to go back to that again, where people are in conflict on the island of Ireland have to go through British checkpoints. We definitely don't want to be. Everybody's in a good place now, and I think it's best to leave it that way.
So a year before the official date that Britain is set to leave the European Union, the two sides have not yet agreed on how this is going to work. So this free-flowing border has become the main sticking point. Nala Ayed, CBC News on the United Kingdom, Ireland border.
Roughly half of all Canadians can donate blood, but only 1 in 60 people actually did so last year. It's a big problem because the demand for blood is huge. But there is one group of potential donors who, for the most part, have been prevented from giving. Right now, gay men have to wait a year after having sex with another man before they can donate. Canadian Blood Services will ask Ottawa to reduce that wait to 3 months. As Christine Barak explains, advocates say that's not good enough.
Not everyone can walk into a blood donor clinic, answer a few questions, and just roll up their sleeve.
We need to rectify this.
Even with tests proving his blood was safe, Christopher Karras was rejected.
Just because their questionnaire said that queer people weren't able to donate.
He's filed a human rights complaint against Canadian Blood Services and Health Canada, claiming discrimination. Gay men were banned from donating blood in the 80s due to widespread concern over HIV. With advances in blood testing, the rules changed 5 years ago. Gay men can now donate blood, but only if they haven't had sex for 1 year.
There was no evidence to support the policy in the first place, but there was also no evidence to support the lowering of the policy. So this policy hasn't been based in science either way.
Based on a presentation to stakeholder groups, Canadian Blood Services may soon be asking Health Canada to approve lowering the no-sex policy for gay men to 3 months by spring of 2019.
People are concerned that this is discrimination.
Dr. Mel Karajan is working with Canadian Blood Services to find a more balanced approach to screening donors. He says the real danger to the blood supply isn't from the viruses we know about.
The concern is having a new agent introduced into a population where there's high-risk activity and that can be spread very rapidly.
What's key, he says, is separating low-risk men who are in stable relationships from those who are having risky, unprotected sex with multiple partners.
There's major efforts to try and allow donations as long as they're safe.
But even this blood donor watchdog group points out it's being done. Italy and Mexico have adopted risk assessment policies based on individual behavior with rigorous screening questionnaires.
It's been proven now in other countries, when those deferral periods have been lifted, that you can still manage a safe blood system.
Your goal is to have the policy eliminated.
Yeah.
Karras says he just wants to be treated like any other Canadian who wants to donate blood. Christine Barak, CBC News, Toronto.
It's worth noting the Liberals promised to end what they called a discriminatory ban back in 2015. The Prime Minister expressed disappointment when the deferral period was shortened but not eliminated a year later. As for the current screening process, all first-time blood donors have to fill out a questionnaire covering things like medical and travel history. And after the donation is complete, the blood itself is screened for a handful of diseases like HIV, hepatitis B and C, and syphilis.
Still ahead on The National, our moment of the day, a man takes a dangerous approach to a Toronto tourist attraction by skinny dipping with sharks.
Yikes. Plus, the Wild West of cannabis branding. Companies are racing to get ready to sell their pot to you.
Well, it's completely, and pardon the pun, it's completely greenfield. We have this great opportunity, once in a lifetime, I would say, in terms of shaping what an industry looks like.
My name is Jordan Bennett. I'm Mi'kmaq from Damcook, now known as Newfoundland. And I'm a visual artist. I work in a lot of mediums, including painting, sculpting, performance, and traditional Indigenous tattoo revival. So a lot of times I create a work and I might think that it might look great as a painting, and then the next thing you know, I'm doing it as a sculpture or I'm doing it as a performance. I usually let the idea kind of do whatever it needs to do. So I have a couple pieces in the exhibition at the Winnipeg Art Gallery as part of an Insurgence Resurgence. One of the pieces is a collaboration with fellow artist, Indigenous artist Dee Barcy, and we created each a painted mural element that exists in two places, one on a building on Broadway in Winnipeg, and the other version of it is a reproduction of that piece, which is on the outside of the Winnipeg Art Gallery. A lot of the quill work that I'm referencing, I really enjoy putting them in the public view, taking them out of a museum context, which is a lot of times where we see a lot of these pieces now. I was not expecting this. I did not expect to walk into the room and see this piece. The first time I ever saw this piece was in a book wrote by Ruth Holmes Whitehead, and seeing this, it's kind of like seeing a painting that you've loved your entire life, but then you see it in person and it just kind of rattles your skull a little bit. I think the only way to learn more about these things is to actually spend time with them. Because I feel like the longer you spend time with something or someone or some place, the more you learn about it, and the more you learn about them or yourself. So this piece is just next level. When I create an artwork that's larger than life, like quill work, and I blow it up, it does confront you, and it does make you question the history, and it's more in your face. A lot of times folks see them and they think that they're these, contemporary artworks in a sense, like that's how they exist and that's all they are. But there's so much embedded history of the designs that are based on landscape, stories and journeys that have taken place for hundreds and thousands of years on this land in Mi'kmaq. Another piece that I'm a part of in the exhibition is alongside of fellow artists Amy Melbuff and Dion Kaz, is called Earthline Tattoo Collective. With the assistance of the Winnipeg Art Gallery, we created a tattoo shop within the art gallery itself, and it was a wonderful experience to share the methods of traditional Indigenous tattooing through hand poke and skin stitch. I think that the work that I'm trying to do is a way of continuing, and also a way of paying homage and honor to the artists and artisans that came before and allowed these forms to exist in the world, like they created them. And to be able to add to that dialogue using new materials like zip ties, or through murals, or through a variety of contemporary materials that I have access to, I think is a way of reawakening a lot of these designs that have been sleeping for a while.
I would say that the pace is unlike anything I've ever personally experienced in my life, and I come from a background of pretty high-paced marketing environments.
Behold, the birth of an industry, a mad scramble to figure out what would make you buy a particular brand of cannabis. Safe to say, the days of buying pot in a Ziploc bag are probably coming to a close, and you're about to get a taste of what's taking its place. For months, the CBC's Tom Murphy tracked two big industry players as they raced to come up with the most compelling product. Here's an in-depth look at branding cannabis.
Every brand wants it. And what they want is that it factor, the thing that makes their product connect to consumers. So, who will become the king of cannabis?
And I'm thinking, how can we build a story more about Edison?
Today's Mad Men marketers see billions of dollars up for grabs, but here's the challenge. They have to create a brand in a space where brands don't even exist yet.
There's no legacy information for us to refer to in terms of how do we build this.
And regulations? They still haven't been nailed down.
It's like we're building the plane in the air.
Oh yeah, and there's only a few months to get to market.
Think about how many times in your life you get to be a part of something that's so fundamentally new.
The story of how they got here to this, the most anticipated product launch in a lifetime. Well, you can forgive them if it all feels like a bit of a haze now.
All right. Well, tell me, how excited are you about the possibilities of recreational cannabis?
Well, I don't think we could be any more excited. You know.
This is Ray Gracewood, former beer boss turned cannabis crusader for Organogram, already a leading producer of medicinal marijuana out of Moncton. One strategy, one brand for Gracewood and Organogram: go for the high-end consumer, no pun intended. To attract them to their premium product, they turn to a Toronto branding agency.
You guys grab your seat, let's get going.
From the beginning, Organogram gives them a near impossible task.
We don't have 2.5 years to bring this to market. We've got 2.5 months.
That's a tight turnaround, but that's not all.
We still haven't been given formal direction from Health Canada on a lot of the regulatory things that we need to know.
At least they know the direction they want to take.
When we think about marijuana leaves and we think about, you know, bong loads, this is not that brand.
They just love the vibe that is what we're trying to build here, which is all about that 70s vibe, that classic cannabis culture.
In another part of town, they've already got the party started. Licensed producer Med Relief is launching one of their recreational brands. That's Darren Karuziak, VP of Strategy for Med Relief. Yes, he's holding a bong with beer in it.
So, who remembers a lot about the 70s?
It's March, months before cannabis is legalized, so you can't launch a cannabis product, but you can launch the brand.
This is the beer that we did with Amsterdam. That was a really innovative way to kind of build the brand, obviously.
And that brand is San Rafael 71, a nod to the birthplace of the early pot smoking movement. Karuziak's new beer has no cannabis in it, but get this, it sure tastes like marijuana.
Finding ways, innovative ways to get the message out, to build awareness without an actual product. We can't sell that yet, right? When we are allowed to actually sell the product legally, they'll remember these things.
Bob Marley would be so proud.
Well, this is our head office, our global headquarters.
This is where it all happens.
It is.
Karuziak, that guy with the bong, he's actually a serious businessman, an MBA, who's in charge of rolling out several rec brands under one of the top medical marijuana producers in the country.
And where do you fit in terms of producers in Canada?
The second largest by revenue.
Sometimes people will say, I can buy pot legally, and they almost giggle when they say it.
We really need to do our best from a branding perspective, from an advertising, from a packaging perspective, to help make this something that, you know, non-consumers can understand and can really make informed decisions about, so they stop giggling about it and think about it in the same way as they do beverage alcohol.
Is this going to make a lot of people rich?
Well, it's completely, and pardon the pun, it's completely greenfield. It's, you know, we have this great opportunity, once in a lifetime, I would say, in terms of shaping what an industry looks like.
So just remind us exactly what the key points of the brief are.
Creative, sophisticated, premium, and quality.
Let's see if we can find
Back at Organogram's branding agency, they're on the search for inspiration. They analyze.
A little bit of off-white.
They sort, and they ponder hundreds of existing brands. They need the look.
Good one.
And that takes a lot of refining.
Okay.
Now it's up to Chris Wu to drill down on a design.
Almost like writer's block, or sometimes you're like, okay, I know I have a story to tell, but how do I write it or get it down on paper? All your information on this, we don't know if that's going to change up until the day they're going to release it, so we don't know what the rules are, which is a little bit challenging.
What he eventually comes up with all gets refined.
So I guess the first thing I started to look at is sort of identities.
Did you ever consider taking the logo and putting it inside and replacing the O in Edison?
That could be interesting.
And refined again.
I think other ones deliver better on quality and innovation.
Yeah.
And refined again.
My head is in this illumination idea.
And refined some more.
The option 3 to me is my preference. But yeah, there's some really, really cool stuff in here.
Hey,
great.
It's a wrap.
There, finally, decision made. And then this.
One of the key elements that we are proposing today is a warning label for all cannabis products and strict regulations on plain packaging and labeling that provide Canadians a first view of what kind of packages that will be allowed for cannabis products.
And that, ladies and gentlemen, is a serious buzzkill.
So you like this?
I did, yeah.
And then Ottawa comes along and says, no,
yeah,
you got to do this.
I know. What do you make of it? It was shocking. It was shocking.
I mean, we spent a lot of time on this, put a lot of work into it.
And now this.
I know. It was like a punch in the gut.
I thought it was a misstep. I think I was disappointed by that. I was disappointed by the fact that this brand new industry, that is going to be the first impression to the consumer of something like that. I think it prohibits us from really being effective in differentiating ourselves, not just from the black market, but also from my competition.
There's very limited.
So much for the sexy packaging, but they forge on to yet another meeting as time ticks away.
We've chosen navy as the primary color behind.
Prepping more ideas than they need, knowing pending regulation will weed most of them out.
But if we can do 20% of it, then there's the potential that we might be 20% ahead of the rest of the competitive set.
When we talk about cannabis, there's THC and there's CBD, right? I take it every day in a capsule form.
Are you doing much work with licensed producers now?
With a few months to go before launch, the ground game is all the more important now. At this trade show, companies from across the country vying to sell you cannabis, and there are a lot of them, are on full display.
It's like we're at this precipice of brands coming alive.
Who would have thought, a couple of years ago that this would be this? We're being part of a history here. Yeah, it's cool. It's very cool. I like what they got going on there.
The strategy here, build brand recognition one customer at a time. But it can be difficult to stand out from the pack, which makes you think maybe that beer bong idea a few months back wasn't such a harebrained kind of idea after all.
We were the first out there in terms of really having a recreational brand in the marketplace. I'm not going to be critical of what my competition is doing because we're all trying to do something new and exciting and innovative.
Over at Organogram, the thinking seems to be evolving from this.
Packaging is going to be absolutely critically important.
To this.
A brand goes far beyond just its packaging.
The thinking now, educate consumers about cannabis.
Hemp is so functional,
So they hit up festivals and set up pop-up shops to do just that.
We're allowed to provide educational services and talk to people about the legalization of cannabis within Canada, and also just do what we can to sort of talk about the Edison brand and get people prepared for October 17th.
As you talk to any educator, it's not about standing up in front of a classroom and delivering a lecture. It's about doing it in an interpretive, innovative way, right? That's how people best learn. We're also doing it in such a way as to kind of, entertain people in that context of what the brand is all about.
And now it is showtime, where they can enjoy the fruits of their labor, or at least the consumer can. These guys are looking for the next way to get a marketing edge.
I know what's next, right? The hard work is going to continue. This is just the early days of this whole thing. So I've already kind of turned my mind to what my expectations are for months and years from now.
It's going to be the nature of our industry to evolve and reinvent itself time and time again, and we've done a good job of planting the seeds of what the Edison brand is all about. but I think at the same time it's only just begun.
Yes, the quest for the consumer's cannabis dollar will continue, and you'll have plenty of brands to choose from. So whose pitch is the best? Well, you get to decide that. Tom Murphy, CBC News.
Now, just to give you a sense of just how quickly this industry is evolving, during production of our story, one of those companies was swallowed up in what may be the biggest pot deal in history. MedRelief, which created the San Rafael 71 brand, was acquired by Aurora Cannabis. That was a competing producer. And that is a deal worth $2.5 billion. They will have advertising rules they'll have to follow, though, with some exceptions. But the broad strokes, they can't tell you the price. They can't advertise to young people. There will be no testimonials or endorsements. And they can't associate their brand with glamour, recreation, excitement, or risk.
Still ahead on The National, royal watchers are thrilled for Harry and Meghan because the couple just announced they're expecting their first child.
I think it's going to be a beautiful baby. His mum would be thrilled, and we're all just so happy for him.
That was fast. But first, a look at a story we'll have for you tomorrow night on The National. David Common takes us to the New Brunswick and Maine border, where U.S. agents are seeing more and more people trying to make their way from Canada to the States. Here's a preview.
As we ride along, the agents know exactly what they're looking for.
The ground has been disturbed. You got the little bit of I don't know, like kind of almost like sawgrass. There's tracks coming from there.
Out here, miles from any road, across a river shallow enough to walk across, footprints sound the alarm.
For all of its weaponry, the toughest battle the F-18 Hornet may ever have to face is the barrage of poor publicity it's now attracting. Its costs have been climbing, and some media reports have described the Hornet as a lemon. There have even been suggestions the U.S. government might cancel the whole 18 program. Earlier this year, the U.S. General Accounting Office, which audits the 18 program, blasted the plane. It and other reports have charged that it was nearly a ton overweight, its undercarriage was faulty, it had problems of drag, reduced engine thrust, range, and its acceleration was below specifications. There were other problems, none of which pleased the U.S. Navy and Marine Corps, which plan to buy over 1,300 of the planes. For Canada, the question has become immediate. Just how good is this plane? And here one enters a vastly complicated air industry world.
The first batch of pre-production model F-18s are being put through their paces here at the Patuxent Naval Air Test Center in Maryland. And according to some in the industry, that is part of the plane's PR problems, for there are many in the U.S. Navy who wish the 18 had never come along at all.
An influential lobby in the Navy would rather spend its budget for aircraft on more of these spectacular Grumman F-14 Tomcats, the world's best air interceptor. George Spangenberg is a retired head of U.S. Naval Air Evaluation, one of America's top experts on Navy planes. He's just one voice complaining that the 18 has been forced on a reluctant Navy.
We fought it off for about 3 years, and then eventually we were overwhelmed and told to buy it or else. And then the syndrome becomes, well, it's better than nothing, which may or may not be true.
In Congress, there are other voices. Many are horrified by the plane's rising cost. Democrat Bruce Vento of Minnesota has been a constant critic of the 18.
This plane is not an outstanding plane. There's nothing unusual about it. We build other planes that are equally as good. The fact is this plane was supposed to be a low-cost plane, and since it isn't achieving that particular mark, I think it's quite realistic to reframe our objectives in terms of what we purchase.
But there are also indications the 18's baptism of fire has been harsher than is justified. The U.S. Navy officially says it's now happy with the 18 and recent improvements. In St. Louis, McDonnell Douglas Vice President Joe Waldner says the corrections were relatively simple. He complains the 18 may have been smeared in part by competitors and insists some of the program has exceeded specifications.
The accuracy of the navigation system is 3 times better than specification.
The reliability of the airplane, even at this very early stage, is proving to be twice as good as what the Navy currently has in the fleet.
McDonnell Douglas test pilots have put in nearly 2,000 hours on the 18 and praise its reliability and ease of maintenance.
I have about 150 flight hours in the Hornet at this time, and I guess it's hard to isolate the good points into one single statement. I'd say it's probably the best, has the best aircraft engine that's ever been put in a fighter or tech airplane, bar none.
The airplane is in fact flying as we intended it to fly. The problems that we knew were there, we are finding, and the good aspects that we knew are there, we are finding. And our goal of an easy airplane to fly, which we feel is the most important facet of a modern airplane, is the goal that we are definitely achieving. And this is really paramount to anything else.
It now seems unlikely the 18 will be canceled, and even many of its critics concede that in time it should turn out to be a good plane.
Thursday, a special episode on budding businesses.
With these two items, Canadians can grow their own cannabis indoors all year. That looks like a party in there.
As an investment, cannabis is just like any other industry.
From food.
Will this give me a buzz?
To tea. To tech. Will the Dragons cash in on Canada's newest cash crop?
You should have just taken your $75,000, rolled it into a big doobie and smoked it.
Don't miss a special episode of Dragon's Den, Up in Smoke. Thursday at 8 on CBC. Figure skating. Saturday at 4 on CBC. Or stream live on the CBC Sports app.
Hi, I need the, okay. Yep. Yeah, out of my way.
Look at that. Now here's a look at some developing stories we're following tonight. The United Nations has a grim warning about Yemen. As you can see, it says there are already 13 million people at risk of dying from starvation there. But if civil war continues, the country could see the world's worst famine in a century. So the UN is calling for airstrikes by the Saudi-led coalition to end. And that is southern France, where roads have clearly been turned into rivers. Several months' worth of rain fell in just a few hours, causing the area's worst floods in more than 100 years. At least 10 people have been killed. And condolences are coming in tonight for Microsoft co-founder Paul Allen. He was just 65. Allen suffered complications from non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. That's a disease he was first treated for back in 2009. 2 weeks ago, he announced it had returned. He founded Microsoft with Bill Gates in 1975. He also owned two professional sports teams, the NFL's Seattle Seahawks and the NBA's Portland Trail Blazers.
When the UK leaves the European Union, it will be the UK that leaves the European Union. We will be leaving the European Union together.
And there she is, Theresa May, calling for cool, calm heads in Brexit talks. Tensions are increasing over the issue of a possible hard border between Northern Ireland and the Republic of Ireland. The UK and the EU are looking for ways to just keep that from happening. A summit with EU leaders is being held this week. And the royal family just keeps grabbing headlines. Last week, it was Princess Eugenie's opulent wedding at Windsor Castle, and today, official word that Prince Harry and Meghan Markle are expecting their first child. The news came as the Duke and Duchess of Sussex arrived in Australia for a lengthy visit. Thomas Degla has reaction to the big announcement.
Mom-to-be Meghan carefully hid any baby bump behind those folders as the couple arrived down under for a royal tour. The rumor mill started churning at Princess Eugenie's wedding. Meghan's choice of attire left keen royal watchers wondering about baby news. That same day, the couple told the Queen and others they were expecting. When Kensington Palace made the announcement, word spread fast in a country desperate for good news. Yes, the birth and Brexit could be just days apart.
Brexit might be happening, but we are so proud of the fact that this puts Britain on the world map.
I can't wait to see the baby. I think it's going to be a beautiful baby.
It was only a year ago the couple was seen in public for the first time at the Invictus Games in Toronto. Getting hitched in their 30s, they always planned to have a child soon.
One step at a time, and hopefully we'll start a family in the near future.
The couple's firstborn will be 7th in line to the throne, right behind Harry, and likely to inherit the title of Earl or Lady.
The Queen could step in the meantime and say, no, actually, I would like to denote the child of Prince Harry and Meghan to be a prince or princess, and she has the right to do that.
With a 16-day trip now underway from Australia to Fiji, Meghan's every move will be watched even closer. Her waxwork figure sums it up. Their lives are about to change with a little one on the way. British bookmakers are already taking bets on the baby's name. Diana, Arthur, and Alice so far top the list, with about 6 months to go before the baby's even born. Thomas Dagg, CBC News, London.
Very exciting. Okay, our moment of the day is next, and this one almost seemed too dangerous to be true. It's the stunt that has everyone talking and police searching for answers.
We've been open for 5 years, and it's the first time I've seen it in my lifetime in this business.
Oh my gosh.
I'm naked. But first, in case you missed it,
I'm not a baby. Everybody makes mistakes. No, I want all the laws changed. This is the most deceptive, vicious world. I'm president, and you're not.
U.S. President Donald Trump from last night's occasionally combative 60 Minutes interview with Leslie Stahl. But as fascinating as that conversation was, right now we want to focus on this photo that 60 Minutes tweeted out. See that painting behind them? Notice anyone familiar? Yes, you do. Look closer. That's a portrait of President Trump hanging out and having a laugh with past Republican presidents, including Bush's 1 and 2, Nixon, Eisenhower, even Honest Abe. Here's the artist, Andy Thomas, describing the challenges in painting the Donald.
Even though he tans, he has a fair complexion and no deep recesses, and so, he's a very subtle person to paint.
So how did Trump respond to his likeness?
He just was effusive, really, and just as kind as he could be. I have seen some paintings of him. He's a challenge to paint. He has different looks and different profiles, all I know is he said he liked what I'd done, and that made me feel great.
So say what you will about Trump, he may be challenging, but the man knows what he likes.
There was a time when $220,000 would be enough to buy the best house in town. These days, that buys the average house in Toronto. Real estate prices have been going through the roof for several years in Toronto. It's at the point now that some people are even passing up promotions because it would mean having to move there. Neil McDonald reports.
Toronto has become Canada's golden city. It's a powerhouse, right in the middle of the fastest growing economy in the world. Moving up the corporate ladder at a lot of Canadian companies means moving here. To crack the housing market in Toronto's core, you now have to be wealthy. For the average income earner, a transfer to Toronto is not a happy prospect.
It's a terrible sentence to be sentenced to move to Toronto from the point of view of finances.
Ben de Jong had to say no. A month ago, he was offered a much better job in Toronto with an American multinational. The pay was higher, and the company was willing to give him an interest-free second mortgage. De Jong and his wife looked at homes in Toronto for 2 days, and they turned around and headed straight back to London, Ontario.
I was basically discussed that what we would be buying for the money we would have to outlay.
In most other Canadian cities, these rather unremarkable homes would cost about $130,000. Make that about $330,000 here in one of Toronto's prime areas. According to the consulting firm Runsheimer Canada, Toronto's cost of living is going right out of sight, and the housing prices are what's doing it. Runsheimer estimates that a family of 4 living in a Toronto suburb now needs an income of $67,000 a year to comfortably afford a 3-bedroom home. In Calgary, the same lifestyle would cost $52,000. In Halifax, about $53,000. In Winnipeg, $57,000. and in Vancouver, 56,000. In March, Doug Harpel finally moved from Thunder Bay to Toronto with Ontario Hydro.
We thought really to some extent it was not quite a now or never, but pretty close.
He and his wife bought into this suburban condominium north of Toronto. It cost $100,000 more than they got for their house, and they don't have a yard and driveway anymore.
It still is a little disappointing to actually go and see what you get for what you pay firsthand and have to make some choices.
Alan Topping of Runsheimer Canada says Toronto's housing spiral is hurting company plans to transfer employees.
There are a number of turndowns now if the assistance to maintain a standard of living that they've been accustomed to is not provided for the employee.
Most companies won't talk about how much they spend to subsidize employee transfers to Toronto, but they usually don't make up the whole difference. And that gap just keeps on growing. More and more people are choosing this option, living 50 kilometers out of town and staring at somebody else's bumper for 2 hours a day. Neil McDonald, CBC News, Toronto.
Johnny wanted to go back home. It was 1,000 kilometers away. They forced him to go to the Indian residential school. More than 150,000 of us children had to go. They wanted to change us.
Our Father in heaven, hallowed be your name.
Hallowed be your name.
Thy kingdom come.
Thy kingdom come.
Thy will be done.
Thy will be done.
Kill the Indian and the child. It's been called cultural genocide. I survived residential school. My brother Johnny did not.
Chani Wenjack was one of thousands of children who died due to Canada's residential school system. More than 80,000 survivors and their families still live with its legacy today.
Figure skating. Saturday at 4 on CBC. Or stream live on the CBC Sports app.
Visitors of Toronto's Ripley Aquarium were expecting a night of jazz music and exotic fish, but when a man jumped into one of the tanks, they got a whole lot more. That dangerous stunt shocked the heck out of everyone, especially aquarium staff, and believe it or not, police are still looking for the man responsible. But the video of what happened has now been shared so widely, it is our moment.
I thought I was going to witness someone die. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, a pretty unusual view, huh? A man swimming in the aquarium's dangerous lagoon, naked. And if the name of the tank didn't give it away, its inhabitants should clue you in. Among them, 17 sand tiger sharks.
First time I've seen it in my lifetime in this business.
He could have been seriously hurt.
Yes.
Elaborate on that, or?
No.
And as for getting him out of the water?
There's not a good way to get someone out of Shark Tank. So they had to wait till he like climbed out. And then when he climbed out, he backflipped back in again. And then he climbed back out again. And then he climbed over the barrier.
And this isn't the only reason police are searching for this man. He's also wanted for a violent assault that took place somewhere else earlier that same evening. So many questions remain.
Okay, so the violent assault took place at another tourist attraction. I don't know why you would run to a shark tank if you're running from police, but what makes this even stranger, ups a strange quotient, is that there was a woman holding his clothes, waiting for him when he was done, and so then apparently they wandered off together, and I don't know why he was so hard to catch, but can't find him.
Yeah, so strange is the right word. Dumb, another word that maybe I would use there. And never mind the fact that this was dangerous for him, potentially dangerous for the animals too, right? So on top of what police already wanted him for, could face charges of trespassing, mischief, and no surprise here, indecent exposure.
And I'm just going to say it because you're all thinking it. Think of what he could have lost in all that. I'm just going to leave it there. But now he's been all over national TV, so I'm sure police will have no trouble tracking him down. And that's our moment, and that's the National for October 15th. Good night, everybody. Good night.